Welcome to the first edition of our weekly dispatch. Did you hear weekly? Well, yes, we figured many of us are overwhelmed by the continuous cycle of news, and a weekly summary to help you stay on top of the biggest developments from around the globe and in Pakistan would be helpful. So we've reworded the daily dispatch into the weekly dispatch and hope will become your go-to place for a weekly roundup of anything important that might have slipped under your radar. We'll be covering the most significant and relevant issues so you don't have to waste time on hunting for the important stories and what they mean. Let's start with developments from Pakistan for the week. Did you know Pakistan overtook Sri Lanka to become Asia's most inflation-ridden country this April? According to data released by the Statistics Department, consumer prices rose by 36.4% on year in April 2023, the highest since 1964. This was driven by a weaker currency, along with high food and energy costs. Transport prices increased by 56.8% and food inflation quickened by 48.1% compared to last year, while housing, water, and electricity costs rose 16.9%. This increase in inflation is expected to continue after authorities raised taxes and fuel prices to meet IMF conditions for the revival of a $6.5 billion loan program. The IMF is seeking financing assurances before restarting loan program, and Pakistan's bailout funds are crucial to paying for essential imports such as food and fuel and avoid a default in the coming months. To rein in price pressures, the State Bank of Pakistan has hiked its benchmark interest rate to 21%, the highest since central bank data going back to 1956. Rising inflation could keep borrowing costs elevated for the country, which is struggling with a slow recovery after last year's floods and as the pressure of struggling economy is transferred to the average citizen. The sitting PDM government is likely to face increased pressure, with the opposition asking for elections. Shifting our focus to developments in the neighborhood. This week, foreign ministers of China and Afghanistan are set to visit Islamabad for a crucial meeting with Pakistani authorities to discuss the current situation in Afghanistan, including how to deal with terrorist sanctuaries, with Afghanistan struggling to clamp down on the banned terror outfit, Taliban. The Pakistan government has shown increased dissatisfaction with the Taliban government over the past months. The steady surge in terrorist attacks in Pakistan since the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan after a chaotic US pullout left the country with a humanitarian crisis has been a major threat to Pakistan and the region. Pakistan is hoping that the Afghan interim foreign minister Amir Khan Muttaqi would come with a concrete plan to eradicate the terror threat. It is important to note Muttaqi traveling to Pakistan is a significant development, as he has long been subject to a travel ban under UN Security Council sanctions. The meeting between the foreign ministers of China, Afghanistan, and Pakistan is crucial as it will help determine the future course of action regarding the situation in Afghanistan. At a time when direct Western engagement with the Taliban government remains minimal, with the Taliban being excluded from talks earlier this week, negotiating with key neighboring countries will also be critical for Afghanistan. And let's not forget, for those keeping an eye on great power politics, a successful dialogue will also be another feather in the cap of the Chinese diplomacy after the recent brokering of talks between Saudi Arabia and Iran. We also see how countries are responding to the need for a balancing act between superpowers. Leaked documents from a US airman have shed light on how developing nations are navigating their relationship with the US and its rivals, particularly Russia and China. The document suggests that countries like Pakistan, India, Brazil, and Egypt are trying to maintain a balance between their various partnerships and avoid taking sides in the intensifying disputes between the US and its rivals. The documents also reveal the internal deliberations of some countries such as Pakistan's caution to policymakers to avoid annoying China and risking the full benefits of its partnership with the country, while maintaining a positive relationship with the US. These leaked documents provide rare insights into the complex diplomacy of developing nations and how they are seeking to protect their interests amidst a changing global order. Speaking of crisis, more than 100,000 people have fled Sudan, and another 334,000 have been displaced within the country since heavy fighting broke out between rival forces on 15th of April. The fighting between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Force continues despite a ceasefire to be in force. Diplomatic efforts are being stepped up to try to get the warring parties to the negotiating table, with Saudi Arabia a potential venue for talks. If talks take place, it would be the first meeting between the two sides since the conflict began. More than 500 people have been killed and more than 4,000 have been wounded in the fighting, with a series of temporary ceasefires having failed to hold. The war between Russia and Ukraine saw rising temperatures this week. Russia has accused Ukraine of attempting to assassinate President Putin in a drone attack on the Kremlin citadel in Moscow and threatened to retaliate. Ukrainian President Zelensky denied any involvement in the incident. Fragments of drones were found on the Kremlin grounds, but there were no injuries or damage. The accusation has raised Western concerns of a major new attack on Ukraine by Russia at a time when Kyiv is preparing for a counteroffensive. Meanwhile, heavy Russian shelling hit a hypermarket, railway station, and residential buildings in Ukraine's southern Kherson region, killing 18 civilians and injuring 46. Both sides have been carrying out long-range strikes ahead of Kyiv's promised spring counteroffensive against Russian forces. The war, now into its second year, continues to be a major crisis for the two countries as well as other key players such as US, Europe, and China, and with little signs of conflict slowing down. Such developments remain worrying. Stay tuned to the Weekly Dispatch as we try and keep you updated. We hope that this roundup was useful for you. If you like our content or have feedback on how we can improve, leave a comment below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'm Usama Nizamani and this was your Weekly Dispatch.